Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us this morning and praying that you are well, that you are feeling great, and looking forward to today. And today is April 27, 2023, and if I'm not mistaken, tatlong araw na lang, Fiesta de Mayo na naman for many places. I think it's even fiesta in our barangay in Lipa, Batangas in barangay in Usluban. I wonder how many of you live in communities, towns, barangays who celebrate the town fiesta in the month of May. But please be careful because it is really getting hotter by the day. Hindi lang ba, talaga pong mainit na, mainit. Okay, it's Thursday, so we're working our way to the weekend, and there's still lots of stuff to be done at home and at work. Okay, let's now go to our usual expression of gratitude. Thank you to our subscribers of Cignal TV and, of course, viewers on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you, of course, to our Creator, God Almighty, that we have life, we have health. And speaking of health, we are going to be speaking to a very young physician who, given her youth, apparently heads a unique department program, and it involves a particular ailment. Di ko muna sasabihin kasi baka mamaya sabihin nyo, hindi naman ako involved dyan. No, please listen up because we don't pay much attention to certain diseases because it seems so remote. Ay, malayo yan sa bituka. Imposible mangyari yan until it happens to us or it happens to someone we know. For today, the subject matter happened to a friend, and it shocked me, and I didn't realize that, it can hit so close to home. But anyway, we are going to discuss that later so that all of you out there can at least be informed, because that is one of Agenda's agenda. To inform the public, to give our professionals, whether it's in the healthcare, public space, a platform to inform the public. But before all of that, let's go first to our daily starter. And our daily starter comes from author Jim Elliot. And he goes, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." Now, I have to confess, it was quite difficult trying to piece together an analogy, an example that would make sense or help viewers make it easier for viewers to understand this passage, which is he is no fool. If you would, Gab, please keep it on the screen. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. Now, there are people I know who have given up their slot, their position, their rank to other people. It's like in politics, you are running for a certain position, but you realize that someone has a better chance at it. So you cannot get the enough votes. So you give way to someone else who wins it. And in the process, when that someone else wins, you gain respect, you gain influence, etc. So that's one example. Another example, closer to home, are parents who are successful business people, successful public leaders, and ultimately they realize, wait a minute, my children are growing, and you cannot take your title to your grave. It may be on your tombstone, but that's it ends there. So I've known people who gave up their jobs or their business and decided to spend more time with their sons, daughter, their children. And in the process, what they gained in exchange for something they could not keep was the perpetual love and respect of their children. A great memory. So that's, I hope that works for you. Always remember that, because I remind myself of this annually. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. Let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. It's April 27, 2023, and the headline, baka mabigla kayo, medyo talagang attention-grabbing, but it's not as serious as it looks. Philippines, U.S. troops sink, quote, enemy, unquote, warship. Okay. That, of course, is a play on the situation in Zambales, where Philippines and U.S. troops are conducting their Balikatan exercises, and which was witnessed by President Bongbong Marcos yesterday morning, where the participants destroyed a enemy ship or warship, which of course was a mock enemy warship, lumang barko po, an old decommissioned boat of the Philippine Navy that was placed 12 miles away from shore. Kumbaga, pinapakita lang na kahit malayo, kaya nilang palubugin. So, the photos that you see there are photos of, the first one is the photo of BBM witnessing the sinking of the mock warship, enemy warship, and of course the armaments and cannons of the U.S. HIMARS, U.S. HIMARS precision rocket system. Okay, at the top of the front page we have Filipino wounded by stray bullet in Sudan. However, okay, it was only a hand shot. Kamay lang po. Okay, Filipino in Sudan was hit in the hand by a stray bullet in the coup d'etat or military conflict in Sudan. The authorities of different nations are now working tirelessly to evacuate all nationals, including the Philippines, after the conflicting groups declared a 72-hour ceasefire. They're all now headed to Egypt, where there is a long line of seekers, refugees. Okay. Meanwhile, Arcturus, okay, medyo ang hirap i-pronounce, excuse me, Arcturus, more transmissible, carries less risk. The new Omicron subvariant XBB 1.16, also known as Arcturus, is more transmissible, mas madaling makahawa, but poses a low risk to infected people. Okay, overall risk assessment is low, according to the statement from the DOH. On the other side of the paper, the 90-day extension to register SIMs is final. According to the DICT, it will only be extended by 90 days, no more tawad, no more excuse, etc., etc. Okay. And then below all of that, and the center page and the lower, the DOH also declared or advised the public, go slow on exercise or swimming amid the heat. Many people have been going to the beach, to the rivers, swimming pools, to cool off, but according to health officials, this could also be dangerous because you could suffer from heat stroke because you're under the sun or you are exerting yourself too much. Easy lang po according to DOH Health Environment Division Chief Dr. Rosalind Vianzon. So yun po. Okay. And then, Senator Cynthia Villar reacted to the viral video. Villar on viral video, "I'll fight for what's right." Stressing that she would fight for what is right, Senator Cynthia Villar said that the viral video portraying her berating a private security guard and his boss as a confrontation might have been planned by parties opposed to her wanting to keep the friendship route open. Ayun po. So clearly, Senator Villar has been under has been getting a lot of attention because of a recent viral video, and I myself have written about it, but more in the context of pwede ba tapusin na yung issue na yan ng mga barricades, gates, na mga special lanes and stickers, etc., etc. Okay, and last photo, we have Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte looking at the mural of at the elliptical road underpass following an unveiling ceremony yesterday. The mural titled "Under Paradiso, Bigyang Daan ang Kalikasan," showcased endangered species of the Philippines. Aba, meron tayong bagong papasyalan. Hindi ko na alam, meron na palang underpass dyan sa may elliptical circle. Okay, let's now go to our interview proper. And as I said earlier, please listen, please watch, please learn, because we don't want you to be surprised, shocked, or misinformed about certain diseases. And our topic for today, well, let's introduce our guest first, a very well-trained physician. Gab, please roll out the video.
Dr. Ruby Robles specializes in diseases of the ear, nose, and throat, benign and malignant tumors of the head and neck, as well as robotic head and neck surgical oncology. She is also the head and neck surgery section lead at the Medical City. Dr. Robles also works as an ENT HNS medical specialist at the Rizal Medical Center.
Good morning, Dr. Robles. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone, to all the viewers. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time, because I know that physicians at your level, especially when you're heading centers already, medyo, your time is precious. So let's get on with the conversation. Head and neck surgeon kayo, but our topic is seems to be focused on head and neck cancers, and the reason I took a special interest in it as well, personally, was because a good friend of mine encountered cancer, and it is in the same area. And most people say, "Oh, my mouth cancer, my tongue cancer," but when you start talking about head and neck cancer, like, oh, wait a minute, ano yan? Doc Ruby, could you do us the favor? Could you please give us a primary lecture, baga, introductory lecture on this?
Yeah, so basically when we say head and neck cancer, ito po yung mga cancer or bukol sa neck pataas except the brain. So kasama po dyan yung ilong, yung bibig, yung lalamunan, yung leeg, no? So, hindi kasama lang yung brain because that's for neurosurgeons. So, when you say head and neck, yun po yung sakop natin. And except the eyes, because that's for ophthalmologists.
Okay. Now, anything above the shoulder and except for excluding the brain. Now, and
the eyes.
And the eyes. Okay. So, Meron bang cancer of the eye? Wala naman yata, no?
Yes, there are. There are
There are.
cases of orbital carcinomas.
Ayan na nga ba sinasabi ko eh. Okay. Anyway, so anything above the shoulder, excluding the brain and the eye, potential area for cancers. But how do you even know? Because when the team agenda mentioned neck cancer, sabi ko, teka muna. I heard of one guest in the program who said sumakit lang yung balikat niya o leg niya. Yung pala, bingo na siya. Tumama na siya. How do you even know you have cancer? How does it manifest and how serious is this?
All right. So for the first question po, for how would you know? Well, of course, that's the reason why actually we want to promote early diagnosis, prevention, and the education of the public about about the most common symptoms. So, for example, our area is actually subdivided. No, so for example, we start from the mouth, our oral cavity, sa bibig. So the symptoms the most common symptoms would be yung mga singaw or mouth ulcers, oral ulcers, patches sa bibig, sa dila na hindi gumagaling. Or sa lalamunan, paglaki ng isang tonsil or dalawang tonsils as also part. Pagdating naman po deeper sa voice box sa tinatawag is usually ang symptom po niyan is paos, no? May change in voice quality, no? Palaging paos, prolonged na paos. Yung iba to the point na nahihirapang huminga, no? Nahihirapang lumunok, kumain. All right. Sa leeg naman po, usually po ito ay mga bukol na nakakapa natin sa leeg. Now, you have our thyroid gland here at the center. No? So, minsan, usually yan, delayed na nadadiagnose because usually people just, hindi lang pinapabayaan po yung mga bukol sa harapan ng leeg. No? So that's the importance of early detection. So dapat tayo po, we are vigilant or, we do our proper oral hygiene, no? Make sure na palagi malinis ang bibig, make sure na kapag may mga singaw na hindi gumagaling ng matagal, meaning like more than 2 weeks, hindi pa rin gumagaling, magpapatingin po tayo sa doktor. No? At
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Doc Ruby, go ahead.
So kasama rin po dito ang ilong, like palaging barado yung ilong, may dugong lumalabas sa ilong. So these are also symptoms. Kahit po ang simpleng ear pain or pananakit ng tenga could also be a sign or a symptom that you have to have yourself checked.
Okay, you mentioned pain. Filipinos, humans for that matter, we only react when there is pain. But what about bukol, bumps, stuff like that? Okay, I see it, I feel it, but it's not painful. Yan ba, okay lang yan? Or if there's no pain, there's no worry?
No, actually, just the simple fact na may nakapakang bukol, no, regardless if it's painful or not, you have to have it checked. Especially if hindi po siya nawawala ng more than 2 to 3 weeks, then I think kailangan nyo na pong magpatingin.
Okay, so if it doesn't subside more than 2 weeks, if there is wound, pain that doesn't go away or doesn't heal after 2 weeks, or then you should have everything checked. Now, what about yung sore throat? Kasi may mga kilala ko, including me, guilty. Pag may sore throat, spray, kayang-kaya yan. Yung recurring mga sore throat, is that a cause for concern, Doc Ruby?
Actually, yes. So, the sore throat is a very vague symptom because there can be a lot of causes for the sore throat. So we start with infection, which is the most common, no? Pwede pong bacterial, pwedeng viral, yung mga tonsillitis, they all are usually yung symptom po nila is sore throat. But again, if hindi po nawawala and tumatagal, kailangan nyo na pong ipasilip just to be sure that there's nothing inside your mouth or your throat that's causing the soreness.
Okay, are there degrees of concern or kasi, I mentioned earlier, malayo yan sa bituka. But, when you start talking about the neck region, hey, it's only a few inches away from the brain. And people might say, alam mo, anything above the neck or in the neck, patingnan mo na yan.
Yes. Actually, if you feel like, minsan kasi, again, that's the reason why we want to raise public awareness, no? Because sometimes people, yun nga, disregard their symptoms. So and usually mga patients, usually sabi nila they've never heard or di nila alam na there's such thing as yung mga cancer sa bibig, sa lalamunan, sa leeg, sa ilong, sa tenga. But actually, marami po, no? Especially with a lot of cases that we are encountering in the hospital. So we want to share these knowledge or, to educate the people about really early detection. Yun po ang number one. So wag niyo pong babaliwalain kapag po may nararamdaman. Maaaring, simpleng sore throat, simpleng pao, simpleng sakit sa bibig, or maliit na bukol. So dapat po, wag mag-atubili and you really have to consult your doctor.
Okay, how serious is the problem? Because you said the increasing number of patients or Filipinos with this type of cancer or this type of problem. How prevalent is this neck and head area cancer?
Actually, if we will base it according to WHO, it's part of the top 10 cancers, no? So the most common in our head and neck area would be the thyroid, no? Or yung tinatawag natin goiter. No, goiter is actually endemic in our country, and there are a lot of Filipinos who have goiter. No, but don't get me wrong, like 80% are usually benign. No, so kung may cancer man po ng thyroid, is only like less than 20% of the time. But still, that 20%, medyo marami pa rin po yun. So that's why, especially for thyroid, which is very common, we really have to have it checked right away. No, yun po yung mga bukol dito sa harapan ng leeg. No, yung bosyo na tinatawag, or more, yun nga po, bosyo ang tawag sa kanya sa Filipino.
Okay, now, what are the symptoms for that? Aside from makita mo, meron bang, because, meron bang, mahihilo ka ba dyan, or lalagnatin, etc.?
So the thing about goiter po kasi, because nandito siya sa harap ng neck, usually late na diagnose because wala siyang masyadong symptoms from the start, no? There's no difficulty breathing, hindi ka nahihirapan lumunok, wala symptom. It's just like medyo may parang nakaumbok lang. That's why people come to the clinics na medyo malalaki na yung bukol sa harapan. Okay? That's why we have to remember, for example, we have a strong family history, no, especially for thyroid diseases, kailangan po natin magpa-early check-up or early screening. Yung iba, usually nakikita lang po yan incidentally. Ibig sabihin, hindi naman yun ang hinahanap, pero nagkataon nung in-ultrasound, that's the time na nakita na may mga nodules po sila sa thyroid. And actually, that's one of the most common reasons why we get to diagnose thyroid carcinoma early on, is because of incidental findings on neck ultrasound.
Yeah, kumbaga nahagip lang ng ultrasound. But is there a blood test for this? Because for us men, especially my age, the primary concern is prostate cancer. So they always tell us magpa-PSA test ka, etc. But for thyroid, is there a blood test? Because sorry, Doc Ruby, sa dami ng gusto kong tanong eh. Yeah, one, is it hereditary?
For thyroid, yes. Genetics is a factor for thyroid carcinomas or mga thyroid goiter. It's really a risk factor. That's why if you have parents, mga kapatid na nagkaroon, tita, tito, we are more vigilant dun sa mga pasyenteng may ganong history. We are more proactive pagdating sa ganon. Pag nalaman namin na they have a family history, then mas proactive kami in diagnosing if they have. And with regards to your other question po, if there's a blood test, actually there's no blood test to check if there's cancer. The blood test is to check the thyroid hormones, just to be sure that the patient is not hypo or hyperthyroid. But that does not mean cancer. So iti-check lang po yun kung yung level of your thyroid hormones are normal. But it will not conclude if you have cancer.
But does that often lead you to the next level? Meaning, if you have hypo or hyperthyroidism, okay, alarm bells, security measures na because may aatake na?
Actually, no po. Most of the time, if you're either hypo or hyperthyroid, it's really treated medically. So yan yung mga, di ba, yung mga marami pong maririnig ninyo na hyperthyroid ako, di ba?
Yeah.
Or hypothyroid ako. Pag ganun po, it's really more on the blood or thyroid hormones. So it's not equivalent to cancer. So magkaiba po sila, no? So when you say yung hypo or hyper, it is usually treated medically. So you just have some symptoms such as, for example, pag hyperthyroid po tayo, yun po yung pumapayat tayo, tumataas yung tibok ng puso natin, lumuluwa yung mata natin, no? Nanginginig tayo, tremors, those are the symptoms of hyperthyroidism. Pero yung opposite naman, yung hypothyroid, yun yung tumataba ka, palagi kang pagod, constipated, no? So these are the things that can be treated medically. And usually, our colleagues, yung mga endocrinologists, sila po ang usually nagagamot ng mga hypo and hyperthyroidism. But once na nakita po sa ultrasound na may mga bukol, yung thyroid, or yung mga nodules na tinatawag, then that's the time we come in.
Okay, so well, a friend of mine told me, Cito, I can't see you until after 3 weeks. And I said, why? What's going on? And she said, well, I had to take this radioactive iodine or something na baka if you want to see me, you better bring a Geiger counter. I go, what is going on? Is that the one? Does that mean she had cancer?
Not necessarily, because we also use the radioactive iodine or the RAI to treat also yung mga thyroid diseases medically, no? But for thyroid cancer, what we usually do after surgery, so the primary treatment for mga thyroid cancer po is opera talaga. You really have to undergo surgery. And after surgery, pag nakita na po yung mga, characteristics ng bukol, no, then that's the time your endocrinologist will advise if you will need additional radioactive iodine. So the radioactive iodine can be used for both, no, to treat a medical disease and or to treat papillary thyroid carcinoma or mga thyroid na cancer after surgery.
Okay, and at the end of the day, what is the prognosis for people with thyroid cancer based on early detection?
Yeah, actually, I usually tell my patients, kasi ang mga pasyente pag narinig yung cancer, syempre natatakot sila di ba? But the good news about it, or the good thing about it is I always tell them kapag natatakot sila na may cancer ako, may thyroid cancer ako, sabihin ko sa kanila, you know what, this is a very friendly cancer. No? It's one of the friendliest cancers. And your cure rate, if ito yung mga early na nadadiagnose, no, would be actually close to 100%. Like 99+% ang survival rate ng cancer, ng thyroid cancer specifically. That's why we really, encourage our patients na kapag, usually kasi natatakot sila magpa-opera so, you just have to explain to them and tell them na, you know what, kahit papano, no, the good thing about having this is it's very curable. At hindi mo ikamamatay ito.
Okay, so hindi siya yung pag nabasahan ka ng thyroid cancer, terminal ka na. Okay.
Iba, sorry, I'll just that. But this is for the most common type, which is the papillary thyroid cancer, because meron ding small percentage ng mga very advanced na thyroid cancer. But the most common pa rin naman is the papillary, which is the very curable type of cancer. Okay,
so we'll go for a quick break, Doc Ruby, and when we return, let's go through all the other possible hits of head and neck cancer so that our viewers will be educated, informed, and at least can be proactive on what to do. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and joining us for today's lecture series, biglang ginawa lecture series, no? Is the section head of the head and neck surgery of the Medical City, Dr. Ruby Robles. Dr. Robles is also a consultant, if I'm not mistaken, at the Rizal Medical Center, one of my favorite hospitals. Thank you, Dr. Rica Lumage, for helping us connect with Dr. Robles. Dr. Ruby, allow me to just read some of these facts para matauhan yung mga viewers natin. Ano? There are at least 7,000 Filipinos diagnosed with head and neck cancers in a year. Although this only makes up around 4.7% of new cancer cases in the country, head and neck cancers continue to be a burden on Filipino families because twice as many men as women get head and neck cancers, and they likely happen most likely to people 50 years of age or older, and apparently, it is number 3 next to lung and breast cancer. So, Doc Ruby, you've been gracious enough to teach us about thyroid cancer. Now, what is the most prevalent or most of serious concern? Kasi isa common, yung isa naman hindi nga common, pero kakatayin ka naman.
So, aside from yung thyroid po that we talked about earlier, the other most common head and neck cancers would be, magugulat kayo, is the tongue, no? Sa oral cavity or sa bibig, no? Cancer ng dila, cancer ng tonsil, no? Tonsil po, yung dalawang bilog na nasa likod ng lalamunan natin. That's also common. Laryngeal cancer or yung cancer po ng vocal cords or yung gawaan ng boses is also common. So ito po yung mga mas madalas po naming nakikita sa mga clinic or sa ospital, no?
Is that an Asian thing? Is that a why is that so common? And is that very Filipino?
Actually, no naman po. It's not really more common sa mga Asians in general, kahit po sa US, kahit po sa Europe, it's also common. Well, the number one risk factor would be smoking, always. No, smoking or yung betel nut chewing, yung nganga, yung mga gumagamit ng nganga. Those are the most common. And of course, excessive alcohol use. No? So these are the most common causes. But recently, there have been increased in cases po, no, kahit sa mga bata, na kahit hindi naninigarilyo, hindi umiinom, pero nagkaka-cancer. And this is brought about by the virus na tinatawag nating HPV, no, or yung human papilloma virus, which is a sexually transmitted virus. Kaya education is really important, especially sa HPV. Meaning, if I were gonna, advise our patients or mga yung ating fellow Filipinos would be syempre to have avoid smoking, stop if you're smoking, moderate alcohol drinking, and for the HPV po actually may vaccine na po ngayon na pwede nating makuha, especially if you begin to be sexually active. No, there are vaccines.
And Doc Ruby, sorry to interject here. Kasi I suppose it's people, women in particular, are not inclined to have the vaccine because yung messaging is sinasabi sexually transmitted virus. Siguro dapat sabihin lang, this is a virus that affects the reproductive system, the ewan ko ba,
Yes.
Whatever, the equipment, di ba? And it is to defend our children. Kasi parang, I think that's where we got stuck with this HPV virus. Sinabi kasing sexually transmitted. Hindi naman kami landi, hindi naman kami hindi naman kami promiscuous. Nako po mga kaibigan, it's not about promiscuity. A virus, just like COVID, is not selective. Anyway, Doc Ruby, pasensya ka na. I just feel so frustrated because as you pointed out, it's there and people don't take advantage of it. So, this thing with children, there's been an increase in what type of cancer, Doc Ruby?
So for the HPV-related cancer po, usually po yan yung tinatawag namin oropharyngeal, or a most common part of that would be the tonsils. So yun po yung most common na kinokos ng HPV related cancer. Yun po yung tonsil usually. Yan po yung most common.
Kanya pala nung bata kami, napaka-ordinaryo na. It was so common for kids to have tonsillitis, and if you had your tonsils removed and you got ice cream. Parang, wow, swerte mo naman, naka-ice cream ka. Yung pala, HPV na wala yun.
Iba po yun, iba rin po yun. Iba po yung tonsillitis ng mga pagbata tayo na paulit-ulit.
Hindi natanggal yung tonsil.
Namamaga. Ano po?
Tinatanggal yung tonsil.
Yes. So usually we remove the tonsils. We have certain indications when we remove the tonsils, no? Number one would be a recurrent tonsillitis. Yung mga nagkaka-tonsillitis paulit-ulit na sa isang taon, more than 4 times, no? Pag more than 4 times sa isang taon nagkakaroon ka ng tonsillitis, then mas magandang tanggalin yung tonsils.
Okay, so going back to the
oropharyngeal
cancer. So please continue with your lecture, Professor.
So yun po, that's why kasi right now the medyo alarming, hindi man alarming, but we see it medyo madalas, no, na yung mga pasyente magugulat tayo na hindi nagyosi, hindi umiinom ng alak, pero may cancer, no? And then when we do some tests, dun po nakikita na related sila sa HPV yung virus, no? So that's why it's really important, lalo na ngayon that we have the vaccine, for HPV, mas maganda po na we take them, especially at a younger age. kesa yung mas matanda na tayo. It's usually recommended for younger people, but it's never too late. You can still have your vaccine for the HPV.
Okay, now if you get tongue cancer of the tongue, okay, what is your future, or what does the doctor do? Kasi alam mo, iniisip na yung tao, sorry pre, hindi ka na pwedeng magmarites, or Domingo, wala ka na, hindi ka na pwedeng dumaldal, putulin na yan. What actually happens if you get a tongue cancer assessment?
All right. So, ang tongue cancer, next topic na po tayo, no, after the tonsil. So, we go to the tongue cancer, which is also one of the most common na cancers ng head and neck. So, the most common symptom would be palagi yan, singaw. Singaw or ulcer na hindi gumagaling. No? Kaya, ang paalala rin natin yung mga, people or persons who wear yung mga dentures o yung may mga palaging natatamaan yung dila, nasusugatan, no? So dapat yun po yung mga nagpapatingin, no? Lalo na kung may mga singaw po tayo sa dila or even sa buccal or yung sa gingiva natin or sa mga gilagid or natin sa loob. Pag may mga singaw po tayo doon or may mga patches na mga puti or red, magpapatingin po tayo, no? So that's the first step. Now, for example, may singaw or may ulcer na hindi gumagaling, lumalaki, no? And then nagpatingin sa atin sa clinic, and then we have this high index of suspicion, lalo na kung alam natin na naninigarilyo, may inom ng alak, then we do a biopsy, no? So once we do a biopsy to confirm that it is really cancer, no? The most common would be the squamous cell carcinoma. Yan po yung most common cancer lalo na sa dila, no? So, ang ginagawa po natin, importante would be to stage. Isi-stage natin ang pasyente. When we say stage, we have to make sure that we know kung gaano kalaki yung bukol, kung meron siyang kalat sa leeg, may mga kulani siya sa leeg, may kalat siya sa buong katawan, such as sa baga, no? Sa liver, sa bituka, sa abdomen, sa buto, lahat po yun, i-check natin. Once we get the full staging, no? Alam na natin kung anong stage niya, then there are options, no? But the most common first line treatment for tongue carcinoma, especially for early na staging, would be surgery po, no? So, ginagawa natin, tinatanggal natin, no, yung part ng dila, no? So hindi naman po automatically na yung buong dila tatanggalin, because we encounter a lot of early stage tongue cancer na maliliit pa, no? Nahuhuli natin ng maliit pa. That's why we can remove the tumor, no? With our magandang margin sa paligid to be sure lang na walang walang naiwan. And yung iba na gagawa nating i-close or tahiin, and that's it. Pero kapag medyo mas mataas na yung staging at lumalaki yung bukol, then mas malaking bulk ng dila ang kailangan tanggalin. Pag ganun, gumagamit po tayo ng reconstruction. When we say reconstruction, is we use different parts of our body para po palitan yung tinanggal natin. So maraming options.
But when you do that, when you remove a sizable portion of the tongue, and you reconstruct with flesh from another area, does the function of speaking continue to be normal or even the same?
Well, if for example, for early stage tongue cancer, kapag sinara lang natin yung dila nila, no, we've had patients na ang ganda pa rin ng boses, maganda pa rin sila magsalita, naiintindihan. No? So yun yung importance, kaya kailangan talaga maaga pa lang ma-diagnose natin. Pero let's say advanced, medyo malaki na yung bukol, so malaki yung tinanggal, pinalitan natin, no? Of course there will be changes. Syempre sa speech, hindi siya ganun ka-clear magsasalita. Sa swallowing, there will also be some changes. Pero after all the treatment, kasi pagkatapos ng surgery, minsan hindi pa doon natatapos eh. Yung iba, kailangan pang mag-undergo ng additional or adjuvant therapy such as yung mga radiation, no? RT, radiotherapy. Yung iba po, kailangan pa ng chemotherapy, no? So after na ma-undergo ng pasyente lahat yon, and then usually the function is still there, no? Nakakakain naman yung mga pasyente, nakakapagsalita pa rin. So these are for yung mga medyo early stage cancers.
Yeah, I have to confirm that. I want to confirm that, ladies and gentlemen, because a very good friend of mine, someone who belongs to my Bible group, had the same experience, and he was saying na when he underwent radiation, chemo, etc., it dried up his throat. He couldn't eat. He had to take ano ba yun? Soft diet ba yun? Or I don't know, meron pa raw iba na sa stomach na lang, nilalagyan na lang ng pork kasi hindi makakain, etc. But the good news is because they found it soon enough, he has been cleared of cancer, and he's actually given his testimony in some program on one of the programs of TV5. So medyo sabi ko nga, pwede ka pa rin magmarites. Sabi, hindi na bro, magbabasa na lang ako ng Bible at saka magpapastor na lang ako pag makagraduate. So there is hope and big chance. But okay, so tongue cancer, meron bang yung mga sinasabi nilang yung targeted radiation or something na, because I mean, you're associated with Rizal Medical, and Rizal Medical Center now has some of the most advanced laboratory or treatment facility using high-tech. Meron bang ganon for the tongue dahil siyempre mahirap nga naman puputulin lang yung dila ng tao.
Yes, in general po, meron na po nung tinatawag natin, yun nga yung targeted na sinasabi niya na radiotherapy, which is more focused, no? Okay, so related po to doon sa nabanggit nyo kanina about your friend na he had symptoms, no? Other symptoms after the radiation. So those are usually the side effects of radiation, no? Yung nagiging tuyo yung bibig natin. That's because yung radiation affects of course our salivary glands, hindi nakaka-produce ng laway, natutuyo yung bibig natin. Yung iba nahihirapan lumunok, and dahil doon nagbubutas sa tiyan para doon pakainin, no? So yung mga bago na po na radiotherapy is more focused dun sa area kung saan tinanggal yung bukol. No? So the benefits would be, syempre, less harm to the structures surrounding the area. Lalo na po sa head and neck area na maliit ang ating space. So gusto natin, as much as possible, is very focused or targeted in radiotherapy to lessen side effects or to lessen na natatamaan pati yung mga normal structures sa paligid. So yun yung importance ng having like the targeted radiotherapy.
Okay, so that's good to know. And okay, so we've done tongue, tonsils. Is there anything that I bypass sa tonsils? Kasi sabi mo kanina, usually pag talagang recurring, then that's a signal. Is there anything we missed on the tonsils, or we covered that na?
Another common cancer ng tonsil, no, na hindi related sa tonsillitis or yung paulit-ulit na infection. Yung iba po would be lymphoma, na yung mga lumalaki yung tonsil, no. Lumalaki yung tonsil ng walang dahilan. Magugulat na lang yung pasyente pag silip niya ng bibig niya, ng lalamunan niya, mas malaki yung isang tonsil niya kaysa sa kabila. So those are also some reason to consult your doctor, no? Lalo na kung sa tingin niyo parang magkaiba yung size ng tonsil natin. No, yung tonsil natin, pwede nating masilip yan sa salamin, no? Pwede natin siyang makita. So kapag may mga nakikita tayong ganon, then magandang magpatingin din. So it's not always na palaging pareho yung maga or may singaw. So kahit na yung difference in size na mas malaki yung isa kaysa sa kabila, maganda rin magpatingin din tayo.
Okay, so tonsil, tongue, thyroid, what else have we not covered, Doc Ruby?
Laryngeal cancer, I think, is also medyo common sa atin. No? Yung laryngeal cancer, yun po yung cancer ng vocal cords na tinatawag. Pero yun po,
Naku, lagi na picture yan sa Facebook. Oy, nadinig nyo na ba yung boses ni ganito, ganoon? Bakit siya malat na malat, etc.
so yes, correct po, no? So, ang pinakamadalas po or pinaka-common na symptom ng laryngeal cancer would be paos or hoarseness, no? So, well, pero of course, there are a lot of causes ng pamamaos, especially for professional voice users, di ba? With excessive voice use, yung mga singers po, broadcasters, no, who really, yung mga host, na talagang excessively they use their voice. Of course, they're really prone na mapaos, no? Pero there's a difference. That's why kailangan pong magpatingin because a lot of times naman benign naman po ang rason bakit tayo napapaos, no? It's either meron tayong laryngitis or yung pamamaga ng vocal cords because of the excessive trauma to the vocal cords. Yung iba naman po merong maliliit na nodules or polyps, cysts sa vocal cords that are all benign, no? So may maliit lang din naman na chance na yung yun nga yung cancer. So kaya mas importante po pinapasilip po natin, no? What we do sa clinic, naglalaryngeal endoscopy po kami, no? So yung laryngeal endoscopy, magpapasok lang po kami ng camera sa lalamunan para po masilip yung vocal cords and then we check kung ano po yung itsura ng vocal cords at kung may anything in the vocal cords that can cause, that will cause alarm. So mas mainam pa rin talaga magpatingin.
Okay, first point regarding laryngeal concerns or larynx, pag may nakitang nodules, because I've heard of this time and again where they found nodules on my vocal cords and the doctor was talking or was suggesting we have it scraped or remove it, etc. And I think there's an ongoing debate about that. Should this be a ordinary practice or should we be careful about nodules and having them scraped? Because dyan nga nagmula yung mga problema ng ilang broadcaster na na-scrape, ayun, pati yung tono nila iba na, tunog scrape na.
Okay. So ang vocal cord nodule po is common, okay, especially for voice users, no? So imagine para po siyang paltos sa vocal cords. Because of the friction, no, ng excessive talking, no, singing, shouting, nagkakaroon tayo ng paltos sa vocal cords. And may iba't ibang degrees po kasi yun, no? So kaya importante na masilip. So when we see a nodule, usually po yan, hindi naman po opera agad. We offer muna na absolute voice rest, wag po munang magsasalita, no? Usually yan, pagpapahingahin natin yung boses, magbibigay tayo ng mga gamot, iti-testing po muna natin kung mawawala yung nodules because most of the nodules naman resolve on its own, especially if you really have, good vocal hygiene, no? Babawasan yung pagsasalita, umiinom tayo ng maraming tubig, no? Iniiwasan natin yung mga pagsisigaw. So those are the things that can help, resolve vocal cord nodules. Yung susunod sa nodules would be kapag naging polyp na po siya or cyst. And those are usually removed surgically. Tinatanggal po talaga yun. Kapag talagang medyo malaki na sila at hindi na siya gagaling sa voice rest.
And laryngeal cancer can only be determined after you have a scope.
Laryngeal cancer po, syempre the first step would be to silip, to look at the vocal cords, to do the endoscopy. Kapag nakita po namin sa vocal cord na hindi siya mukhang nodule, hindi siya mukhang polyp, and medyo suspicious na tayo, then we do a biopsy. We also do biopsy of the vocal cords to confirm that it's really cancer.
And normally the same protocol is done whether it's a tongue cancer, whether it's tonsil cancer, or it is laryngeal cancer. Same protocol naman usually yun and treatment.
Yes. Same protocol in the sense that we always have to do a biopsy.
Yeah.
Have to be sure 100% before we start our treatment.
Okay. Now, we're down to our last 2 minutes, Doc Ruby. So, in case there is something special or particular you want to talk or speak on, please go right ahead kasi baka mamaya maubos ko oras mo.
It's okay po. Okay, so, since actually we're celebrating the Oral Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Week, no? This is globally advocated by all countries. Usually kapag April po yan, last week of April. No? So the main purpose or goal of this is to really raise public awareness. So gusto natin, we want to educate our people, no? To tell them about the risk, yung mga risk factors, no, yung mga nagko-cause ng mga cancer, to familiarize them with the symptoms para po sa early detection and also prevention. So gusto natin, in treating cancer, it's always yan, palagi sinasabi natin na early detection ang pinaka-importante, no? Because especially if we catch the cancer at its early stage, syempre mas gumaganda rin po ang prognosis natin, no? Or yung overall survival rate. So, we want to emphasize sa mga kababayan natin, no, who are watching, na importante po talagang wag yung baliwalain pag may nararamdaman, no? Wag nating antayin na lumala ang mga sintomas natin, wag nating antayin na lumalaki ang bukol sa leeg natin, wag nating antayin na may mga singaw tayo sa bibig na hindi gumagaling, no? So always think na magpatingin agad sa inyong doktor or sa inyong spesyalista para po maagapan agad kung meron po man kayong cancer sa head and neck.
Okay. Well, you are a very good interviewee. So I do hope that we will get more time with you in the future to educate people, particularly in this field of specialization. Thank you very much, Doc Ruby, and God bless your work, your team, your associates, because I know you are a vital link and support for those who otherwise would have no chance and no alternatives. Thank you, Doc Ruby.
Thank you so much for having me po. Thank you, sir, and nice to meet you. And thank you to everyone po who watched this morning's agenda.
Okay, and there you go, Dr. Ruby Robles, Section Head and Neck Surgery of the Medical City, and also Consultant Specialist at the Rizal Medical Center. Maraming salamat, Dr. Rica Lumage of RMC. Let's now go to our blessing for the day or for the week, and it comes from the book of Genesis, book 20, chapter 26, verse 3. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. And I pray that the Lord's blessing will be upon you. Thank you for joining us here on Agenda, and thank you for being open to learning more. And please pray for us as well. God bless you, and please keep it here on One News.